how would I say it? Started to become institutionalized. And that's, it started as a revolutionary spiritual movement, and it grew so wide and big that it has to be some kind of rules and a form or standards of an institution. Otherwise, it's very hard to manage. And usually when you have an institution, it just kills the spirit of the revolution. It's okay now. Sound is perfect. Хорошо. Очень хорошо. And so what does it mean he revolutionized this chanting? I think it mainly happened the late 80s and early 1990s, where I joined in 1991. And we used to go on Harinam Sankirtan a lot, but we heard a lot of lectures, and then more lectures, and then seminars about this topic and that topic. And we also, the chanting was there, but wasn't in such an explicit form as the all-encompassing and all-inclusive, the most powerful method to attain Krishna consciousness. And Aindraprabhu was the only person who kind of like showed us that by chanting you get everything. And he showed us that the chanting is the real deal. By performance of what he was talking, he was walking the talk. You couldn't find anybody like him who would chant constantly and with such determination and with such power, with so much conviction that, hell or high water, sick or health or whatever condition, he just kept going with full conviction. And sooner or later, he started attracting people who were like-minded or people who woken up to the idea that, yes, we are in this Krishna consciousness movement. We heard so many classes about Sambandha. Sambandha is establishing a relationship with Krishna. There was so much emphasis on book distribution. And, that was, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, this was the most pleasing activity because he wanted to spread Krishna consciousness. So in order in the Western world to establish Krishna consciousness, you have to make people aware who Krishna is, who you are beyond the material body, Jivara Swarupa Nityara Krishna Das. So the books and the knowledge was quintessential. And especially the books, because of course we are preaching, we're telling people about Prabhupada, about Krishna, but we cannot preach like Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, Prabhupada always stressed, distribute my books, distribute my books, distribute my books. And he said, what will your 3-minute preaching do? We very enthusiastically tell somebody about Krishna, We might be very ecstatic about it, but we still don't have the power of Srila Prabhupada, who's coming from Goloka Vrindavan. And when he says Krishna is God, or I say Krishna is God, there's a vast difference. And he says it in his books. People accept immediately. If you're sincere and open to the idea. If you're too demoniac, then you cannot. It's very difficult. So, distributing books was so essential to make people understand that they're not this body, they're spirit, soul, and establish their relationship with Krishna. And therefore, it was not too much, cannot be too much, but there was a lot of emphasis, or only emphasis, I would say, only emphasis on book distribution. And there was Aindra Das, who went a step forward. And what is the next step from Sambandha? Prayojana, yeah. Which is what? Actually, Sambandha, Abhideya, and then last is Prayojana. So next one is Abhideya, which means the process, more like the practice, the process and the practice. So there was an Indra who practiced, Krishna consciousness by an exclusive chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And there was something that was kind of, unfortunately, sadly, it was a new thing in ISKCON. It was not a new thing, but nobody practiced it really. We hear lectures and lectures and lectures, and you hear about how you have to preach. Indra Prabhu wrote a book, and he says in there Prabhus, we have to preach about preaching so we can preach. So to preach, how we can preach about more preaching until we blue in the face to preach. But, what are you preaching about? If you don't have Krishna, you don't give Krishna, you don't, follow the process and practice this chanting, then there's not much you can give. You can give Srila Prabhupada's books, but it is better that people see the example also. Yes, he's practicing this philosophy. And somehow their Sankirtan was pushed to the back. But Indra Das, he brought it back to the forefront. He gave one speech, I think it was in Mayapur, he stopped the Kirtan. And he said, what was it said? That this Sankirtan movement has to be placed back to the forefront of this, to his rightful place of dignity, of the forefront of this movement, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna movement. And so therefore he revolutionized the chanting. He only did the chanting by the practice, by the perfect example of executing that. And he was becoming more and more convinced because he got more and more spiritual realizations. He became more ecstatic and more advanced. You could see I was with him from 96, even earlier, but 96 I moved to Vrindavan for 6 months, 97 again, 98 permanently. He passed away in 2010. So over a decade I was with him. And I could see, the man, when he was chanting, the hairs would stand up on his arm and his back. With tears in his eyes. But he would control them, because he would not help his kirtan. If you choke up, you cannot sing. But the man was really on the platform of exhibiting external symptoms of bhav. And we know, in order to go back to Godhead, you have to be on the bhav platform at least, which will give you the adhikar, or the prerequisite qualification to enter Krishna's Bhoma Leelas, the Bhoma Leelas, which are the earthly pastimes. Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, and he wound up his pastimes. He went to the next universe, and to the next Bhoma Leela, the next earth planet. And then he does the same pastimes, this whole entourage, imported from Goloka Vrindavan, traveling with him. Then go to the next universe. Prabhupada called it Krishna's road show. From universe to universe. Of course, Krishna enjoys his earthly pastime, his Bhoma Leelas even more. Because there are real demons here he can fight. And because we are here, the conditioned souls, that he wants to, out of his soft heart and compassion, to save. And sometimes it is said when you see Krishna in the contrast of the material world, he looks even more beautiful. It's just like you go to a jewelry shop and, well, let there be light. You go to a jewelry shop and they put a diamond or the gold ring. Ladies know better than you, right? They put it on a dark velvet, right? Blue or black. So something dark is a contrast, you know? So this material world is like a dark, terrible place. And there comes Krishna, there comes the spiritual master, and the contrast is so great. Therefore, Krishna enjoys, his Bhoma Leelas here. So definitely Indra Prabhu entered his Bhoma Leelas. I'll tell you, there's a lot of conspiracies going on about how he passed away. He passed away because he lost the sense of smell in his old age or whatever. And his gas cylinder was leaking gas. And then he was doing his puja to put on, and when it was time to cook, because he bought a new gas cylinder that afternoon, put in the room. He didn't know it was leaking gas. So when they lit the fire, the big flame came, burned his face and hands, but not to the extent that he would die. He roasted him a little bit. And then the place didn't catch on fire. Of course, there was some fire, but it didn't burn to the ground or anything. But there was a lot of smoke. And he passed away due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Inhaled a lot of smoke. So when that happens, you kind of like fall asleep, you pass out. And when they found him in the morning, because he would come down for his deity service, dressing Radha Shyam Sundar, and he was not coming. And Adikeshwara Prabhu, one of the pujaris, he rushed to his room, and he smelled, all this smoke. And soon many devotees came, they broke down the room. His rooms were sealed, he couldn't get out. The windows were sealed, like iron bars, and his room was sealed because the Gurukul boys on the floor downstairs, they were playing, running around, making a lot of noise. And Indra Prabhu would do his recording in his room for his album. And he needed a soundproof room. So he made this really thick door with lots of cushioning and, proofing. And if you locked it from inside or outside, it was very difficult to get out. It wasn't just like a doorknob you open, And he latched it from the inside, and he couldn't get out. And they found him holding the feet, he was paying obeisances on the floor, and holding the feet of Nitai, his beloved Nitai Sachisutta. And if you think about it, if you're trapped in a room and you can't get out because there's smoke and fire, you would just, you scratch the walls down with your nails to try to make a hole and get out. He accepted this is the end, just hold on to the feet of Nitai. That's it. It wasn't a little difficult situation. There was some conspiracy and controversy, and he was threatened by some of the authorities unjustly. And like I said, institutional politics. And, he was not happy how he was treated by the authorities, by his godbrothers, some of his godbrothers. And he was the last year, a couple of years or months, he was kind of disheartened, and he was ready to go. And I think Krishna took him to a better place. Of course, what I think, he went to the Bhoma Leelas of Krishna, taking birth from one of the gopis, and now he's able to see Radha and Shyam Sundar face to face. Such a elevated position. He definitely did his homework. In New York, he used to go out 10, 12 hours doing Harinam Sankirtan every day. And on the weekends, he would stay out until 4 in the morning. New York City, they call the New York, the place that never sleeps. Okay? I lived there for 10 years, and it's a very crazy place. Very crazy place. There's a class of people only come out at 10 o'clock at night. Like vampires, You know, they come out and you see them like, wow, there's a whole different creature here. Whole different class of creatures here. The vampires are coming out and they're just partying or whatnot. I don't know what they're doing. But they're definitely in the mode of ignorance, tamaguna. And so he would stay out until 4 in the morning on the weekends because there was so much happening, so many people. New York City, anywhere you go, it's like a ton of people, just like India. Everywhere you go, there's people. And then he came to Vrindavan. He was performing the 24-hour Kirtan department. He started the Kirtan department. The 24-hour Kirtan department was the desire of Srila Prabhupada. When he established the temple, he said he wished that in Vrindavan and Mayapur, there should be 24-hour Kirtan going on, akhanda or non-stop Kirtan. Literally means unbroken, never-ending, non-stop Kirtan of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra should be going in Vrindavan and Mayapur. And Prabhupada instructed every devotee in Vrindavan to do Kirtan. Everybody should assign at least 1 hour a day. And it was happening, but devotees were not inspired or whatever, they had other things to do, and it didn't really take off. And after Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, it kind of like stopped. And then they wanted to revive it by hiring professional kirtanias, the Bengalis, which was, they come, you pay them money and they come and they chant Hare Krishna. But that's not really, that's aparad, offensive. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji called them, they're not chanting the holy name, they're not chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they're chanting Hare Taka, Taka Taka, Hare Hare. Taka in Bengali means money, paisa. And so that was happening, and there was 24-hour kirtan, but it wasn't really what it's supposed to be. In fact, it was detrimental. Ayendra Prabhu explains, according to Haridas Thakur in Harinam Chintamani, one who hears the holy name or chants the holy name while he's committing offenses, the result will be that material desires will increase in his heart. Because Krishna, is like a Chintamani Nam, and the holy name is Chintamani Nam, the touchstone. It will give you whatever you want. You chant for money, here, take it. But you'll never get Krishna. You never get Krishna, only get money. In fact, and Ayendra would, just like declare that, we don't want money for our chanting. We're not so cheap. We want Krishna, not some money. What are you going to do with all that money? You can't take it. It's not going to help you to go back home, back to Godhead. So, all you want is money. That means you have not understood the philosophy. You don't practice the philosophy. And you never really got the point. And Ayendra, he was nothing else on his mind but the simple, Ekeha Kurunandana, or one-pointed intelligence of going back home, back to God. And he wanted to be with Krishna. And he understood by the example and the teachings of the Acharyas that only by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra constantly as the main sadhana, one will attain self-realization in this age of Kali Yuga. This is the Yuga Dharma. Hare Nama eva kevalam. This is Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Ato nasti eva gatiranyata. There is nothing else. Nothing else works. Jnana, yoga, karma, you can all throw that in the window. They don't work. They don't work. So Indra Prabhu re-established or revived the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra chanting 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan. And the story goes that there was Mr. Kapoor, who was Srila Prabhupada's friend. He was a very respectful gentleman who lived in Vrindavan. I can't remember if he was a Brajbasi or not, but he was a bookkeeper, and I think he worked for the government, but as he retired, he helped the temple and Srila Prabhupada, his love for Prabhupada, by maintaining the bookkeeping, the books, the purchases and expenses of the temple. And Srila Prabhupada would often, talk with him, joke with him. He was joking with them that you cannot go back home, back to Krishna. You're still drinking chai, etc. So there was like some sweet exchanges. And, he loved Prabhupada very dearly. And one morning, this Mr. Kapoor came to Indra Prabhu's room in the morning. And Indra Prabhu opened the door and he was in tears and crying, sobbing. And Indra Prabhu said, what is happening? Why are you crying? And he said, Srila Prabhupada came to my dream and he was sad. He was in tears. He says, why is there no kirtan going in the Krishna Balaram Mandir? Why there is no Akhanda kirtan? He was very disappointed. So please, Indra Prabhu, you start this kirtan. You start this kirtan. And Indra Prabhu, up to that point, his idea was that he's going to go on a bullock cart with Gaur Nitai on a cart, and he would go from village to village and he would preach, set up, his setting in that village, start kirtan, explain the philosophy, maybe Dishvip Prasadam. And, he was gathering everything together for the mission. He got big wampers and instruments and try to recruit some devotees. And meanwhile, when he had spare time, free time, he went to the temple and he was singing there in his harmonium. And all the devotees loved his singing. Back then he didn't know so many Indian melodies yet, not many ragas or, village tunes, Brajbasi village tunes. But they could appreciate, his devotion. And, he already had, of course, some good melodies under his belt. And everybody appreciated him. And he was even approached that maybe you should do the kirtan here. But no, my idea was to do the road traveling, preaching, village to village, as Lord Chaitanya desired. But then Mr. Kapoor was telling him this story. The Prabhupada is crying. There's no 24-hour kirtan, and he's here in my door. So this must be a sign that I should surrender to this. And then he started the kirtan department with a few devotees, just a core of 3-4 devotees. And they had 4-hour shifts back then. Now we have, of course, 3-hour shifts, 8 times 3 hour. And there is the ideal setting is 4 groups doing 2 times 3 hours. So if you join the kirtan party, you would have to do 6-hour kirtan in 2 shifts, 3 hours and 3 hours. That adds up to 24 hours, day and night. But back then, because there's so few devotees, they had to do 4-hour kirtan shifts and maybe 2 people on a shift. Nighttime, all alone for 4 hours. I did also night shift And for 3 hours, you're singing alone. It's beautiful. I mean, it's just the sky of Vrindavan and that's courtyard of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. And nobody's there. It's very intimate. It's very beautiful, very, how to say, romantic, And, but it's at the same time, it's difficult. Vrindavan is Tapa Bhumi, right? It's the planet or the place for tapasya. All material discomforts are present. It's cold in the winter. It's very hot in the summer. Mosquitoes are killing you. So many other things. All kind of diseases. When I moved there, I got malaria. I got jaundice. I got typhoid. Several infections. Bronchitis. You get all the nice fevers. Especially malaria is really heavy. And so it was 4-hour shifts in the beginning, but then gradually Krishna sent him some very, very nice devotees who were good musicians also. Nitai, you probably heard of some of his recordings on his earlier cassettes. Anybody knows what a cassette is? Then you're too old. You have to rewind the cassette with a pen, like this. We had Walkmans, right? Sony Walkmans. So then 24-hour kirtan started, and because I told Indra Prabhu one time that this is one devotee here, Nandana. He's a Bengali brahmachari, very sweet, very humble, doesn't speak much, but he always chants Hare Krishna. And when I joined New York Temple, we used to go out on Harinam, and he would just chant Nitai Gauranga on the street, for 2 hours. He was just like going like a machine, but with such beautiful and sweet, mood. He was just like, wow, disempowering all the demons, and what to speak of, regular people. And so later he became a temple president of Atlanta or New Orleans, I can't remember. And they told me that he became a temple president, and it was kind of like a Bengali temple. And they invited their buddies from Mayapur, and they didn't preach to the Western folks so much, But when he became temple president, so many young Western people started coming, African Americans and white bodies and Latinos and everybody, because it was just so attractive. And I related this to Indra, and he says, yes, it takes only one real man. And it takes only one real man, to do the job. And that's what Indra Prabhu was. He was the one man that, it was like a magnet. When one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, it will attract everybody. That's why Prabhupada was attractive. He didn't have any allures. Like, I see so many kirtan events nowadays, kirtan melas, and they have their catchy tunes and all the the things that will get you attracted to the the kirtan. But they're just tricks. It's not the real deal. They're just tricks and kind of like they're performers, and to entertain a public. And the whole thing becomes just like a musical experience or like a musical event. They know how to connect with the public, And of course, Indra Prabhu had all these, but he did it for Krishna, or he did it to attract the public. That was simply try to bring him in, into the midst. And in fact, he told me one time, because somebody was complaining some 20 years ago that, when you become pure, those people who are not so pure but they want to show themselves as pure, become envious. It's material nature, and they want to bring you down to their platform. So they were saying, oh, why is Indra changing so many melodies? This is sense gratification, You cannot just stay with one melody because he has no taste, He has to jump to the next melody. It was not true. It was not true. Indra Prabhu did it because we didn't have taste. I asked Indra Prabhu, which one is the best melody, your favorite melody? And he says, Srila Prabhupada's tune. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So Indra Prabhu could go on for hours and hours. But he said, just like he says, you see in these music videos, even back then they had these MTV music videos, and they show the girl, for a flash moment, and then goes back to the guy and the singer who also looks very, crazy. And then some other scene, and they're making a girl, and you're watching, what was that? Didn't see it long enough, right? So you want to, see it, but then show another flat. Oh, this is something interesting. There's another interesting coming. They keep you, glued to the TV set, And I said, I'm changing the melodies frequently because it will keep devotees, attentive. He told me one time, he had some beautiful melodies and beautiful ragas he was singing. And sometimes the Western devotees would come to India, to Vrindavan, and they sit down in Indra's kirtan, kind of sheepish, and Indra was like very powerful, very strong. And, they sit there, they couldn't follow the melody. And Indra Prabhu said that, chant, it was just like getting on their case. And he told me that this is the most difficult thing to get them to chant. It's still true. I mean, you go to a kirtan, everybody's sitting in the back and, like it's a spectator sport, I'm going to watch it. And if you don't get into it, you don't get involved, you're not going to reach the full benefit. You only get a little benefit. So, coming back, so he said, I'm changing the melodies. Why? So just to keep them attentive. Not because he had no taste, he had higher than taste, much higher than just taste. And one time, one devotee, Maharaj, one sannyasi was singing in the Kirtan Mela, Lokanath Swami singing. And after 20 minutes, he stopped the melody and wanted to start the next melody. So this devotee turned to him from behind. He said, don't change the melody. This Maharaj told him, don't change the melody because it's Maya or something. And Indra turned to him and said, how do you know the next one won't be better? Well, it's, just your imagination. And well, that's your imagination. Indra was saying that how come we go to, the point is, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, right? Krishna accepts our love and devotion in our offering. You can offer the deities some tulsi leaves, some water, and they'll be very happy. So why are we worshipping all these elaborate ways? Because we can, right? And if we can, we want to do it, and Krishna wants it from you. Prabhupada says if you have $1 million and you give Krishna $10 with love and devotion, Krishna knows it's a lie. You put $10 in the bundi box. No, Krishna's not looking at the $10. He's looking at the $999. Sorry, $90. So Indra Prabhu said, when you cook the Raj Bhoga for Krishna, for the deities, we don't just offer some rice with some salt and say, oh, Krishna is my love. No, you lazy bum. You're a very good cook. You go home and you cook, wonderful feast for your family, and you only give me rice with love and devotion. What nonsense is this, So if you're a good musician, you should offer your musical talent to Krishna. Problem is when you cook for the deities, there's no audience. When you're singing and performing music, then you think you're a rock star. And then, people come to you, oh my God, you're a pure devotee, just because you know how to sing. It happens a lot. People worship these musicians like they're pure devotees. And, it takes one to know one. And of course, there are people who see through the whole thing. There are devotees who see through the whole thing. Einer, for example, it was very heavy on this point. If you make an event and you charge at the door for the kirtan performance, then you don't get any, then it's aparad, it's an offense. And you become an aparadi, and the people who pay for it become an aparadi. And then what is the result we mentioned earlier? Material desires in your heart will increase. Instead of getting attracted to Krishna, you'll become more attracted to Maya. And then you don't get Maya. He said, all you get is your money. So he was very heavy on this point. He says, those who don't chant their 16 rounds and lead kirtans, they're simple entertainers. I've seen so many times, you see them all the time, in fact. Always the same people. And, the big kirtaniyas, and I know some of them, they don't chant much japa. It was always a problem. Big kirtan, big alap. Very fired up, really fired up. Chant japa, they have no attraction. So then you can understand this person is bogus. I should not really associate with him closely. They're devotees, they're chanting the Mahamantra, so the connection is there. But we should be smart. We don't always have to go with the flow of peer pressure and social pressure. I see in America in the youth, they all just like a bunch of sheep, they just go wherever they go. Oh, this is the cool thing to do, and this is the cool kirtaniya, and they just get really into it, and everybody does it, so I have to do it because this is the accepted cool thing to do. They don't have the courage if they see through it. They don't have the courage or the balls, pardon my French, but to accept or go against the grain, go against the stream, And Indra was like this, many of his godbrothers, they wanted to bring him down because they saw his rapid advancement and they tried to pick on his eccentric nature or his looks or so many things. And Indra was kind of like, he didn't care at all. He was like, it's just me and the holy name against the whole world. And this is it. No fear, no fear at all. You don't have to be afraid of everything. Lord Chaitanya is on your side. The whole world can be against you. Not a problem. And there are many pastimes. Maybe don't. This is not Radha Krishna, so not pastimes. Many memories with Indra Prabhu. I could say, but maybe you have any questions you wanted to ask or relate anything?
When does this stop? Like this class, not that I wanted to stop, like a wrong way of putting it. But
I'm not sure.
what is the schedule?
Well, we have till 1 o'clock, depending on the rule and questions and so on. So more or less.
Yeah, yeah. You're excused. You tell me something about Ayendra Prabhu. What do you like about him? Why is he?
What is there not to like?
I don't know. But what is it you like about him?
His straightforwardness, that he dared to stand up for the chanting of Hare Krishna mission that Prabhupada brought to this world. That's like, I don't, maybe it's because of his purity that at some point in my life, or it's often, like it has been not easy. I just fell asleep to his kirtans, and that, it transcended everything.
Srila Prabhupada said that devotee has to be brave and courageous like a British soldier and soft like a Bengali mutter. So Indra had both sides, definitely. And we see in devotees, I told my one astrologer friend of mine, that, my son is so stubborn. I have a boy. This guy is like, no. Children are like, but this guy is like, no compromise, like no compromise. And I asked him, what is happening? Is this okay, or he has a problem or something? And he says, no, he says, great, devotees, when they come to this world, sometimes they have this mood, like Indra, like, and even from childhood they exhibit it because they need this, courage and the strength to say no, to all the illusion and injustice and just stand by the absolute truth and never give up, So this is a good quality, he says. You'll see later. So Ayendra Prabhu was so straightforward, and if you were straightforward, you loved that person. And if you were straightforward, you could immediately relate to him. There's so many things I cannot say in a microphone because it may be a little controversial. But he was a lot of fun with him. It was definitely very straightforward. And another astrologer friend told me that he's seen his chart, and of course he had a very strong, if you know astrology, Jyotish Shastra, that he had very strong Saturn. He was very mystical. And he had very, very strong Mars. He says he has read many charts. He's never seen such high Mars like Ayendra Prabhu had. And Mars is, he had red hair. He had red eyes like a laser, just burn everybody. And he had red hair on his back. And why is red? Because it's a sign of Mars. It's fire. It's fire, like Narasimhadev, Mars means military, general, leader, and military strength, courage, anger. Yeah. Anger. And, anger can be utilized. I told Prabhu yesterday, one time I was not arguing with him, but like discussing something, and he says, Govinda, don't argue with me. I am angrier than you. Okay. I'm angrier than you. I was like, wow, this is so funny. This is so funny. Yeah, so he had all his red hair. He was so brave. He was so strong. Wow. Yes, Prabhu. No, no. He was never. Ayendra Prabhu would point out sometimes the shortcomings present in our movement, and sometimes shortcomings exhibited by some of our leaders in our movement. But he didn't do it in a personal way. He didn't talk about it, such and such did this and such, but he explained the situation. When somebody does like this, when somebody does like that, he never had a personal attack. And so he was just more, the purpose of this was to establish purity, the principles of pure devotional service, by kicking out all this false duplicity. Duplicity, understand? Faking pure devotional service while you have a second life, etc., etc. And because of that, many disgruntled, devotees, they thought he's anti-GBC, and he was not anti-GBC. He was anti-nonsense, So sometimes they would misunderstand him in that way. He was such a sold-out soul to Srila Prabhupada and his ISKCON movement. He told me when he joined the Potomac Temple in Maryland, it's next to the Langley, the CIA headquarters. There was one devotee there who told him that you should never leave ISKCON. Even everybody leaves ISKCON around you, you should stay in ISKCON because this is Prabhupada's body. Even if I leave ISKCON, you should stay in ISKCON. Sure enough, that devotee left ISKCON. But see, Ayendra left. I mean, even though he was persecuted often, very harshly, he never left. He never left. He could have easily, I was there, he was offered a whole ashram next to our temple, like a building with a big garden, and you could easily put, the kirtan department there, and he never left ISKCON, never left Radha Shyam Sundar, never left Prabhupada. He was sold out, very loyal. There was no question. There's no question of ever leaving Prabhupada. Maybe he was not happy with the institution, but that's a whole other thing. But, if you're not helping the institution, you're not part of the solution, but you're part of the problem, So, no, that's a wrong notion that he was anti-ISKCON, and it's nothing like that. He was actually the person who embodied when somebody who was sold out, loyal to Prabhupada and his mission as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Any other question you have? Yeah. Yeah, he had 2,600, over 2,600 Shalagram Shilas. I don't know how many trays. It was like a big copper trays. It's like hundreds, over 100, maybe 200, I think. He had 13 or 14 trays. All kind of Shalagram Shilas. And he says, I worship all Shalagram Shilas as Krishna, according to Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas, who says that to look at Shalagram, this is a chakra, Sudarshan chakra, this is a Matsya, this is a Gopal, Shalagram, etc., etc. And in Shastra, you get the explanation that by worshipping Matsya avatar, you get, you get rid of your problems, or it will protect you from the problems of planetary effects, unfavorable effects. Or if you worship this shalagram, you get that benefit or that benefit, And that's kind of like karma kanda section of the Vedas. So he worshipped all shalagrams as Krishna. And he had some red and brown shilas. As it is said, when you worship a brown shila or a red shila, they can make your life very uncomfortable. And he was sick all the time. He had malaria, like on and on and on. And then he had typhoid, and he had all kind of different diseases, heavy diseases. He got in a hospital at one time. And hospital in India is no fun. It looks like a toilet, and what he did, he didn't stop or give them away. He went to Nepal, to the Gandaki River. That's where you get the shalagram shilas, if you don't know. And he said that I was collecting more shilas, and then I told my shalagram shilas, I brought you here because you're making me sick, and I cannot chant Hare Krishna, I cannot go on with my service. So you have a choice. I can put you back into the cold water, of the river. That's where you came from. Or you can come back with me to Vrindavan. But, but please don't make me sick anymore. And I forgot how he got confirmation, but he took him back to Vrindavan. And from that point, he was okay. There was no more disease. So that was his level of, worship, very personal and very intimate. Then he had Nitai, Janava, Gaur, small deities. Those are the small deities that Srila Prabhupada instructed that they have to produce them in mass. And they would put them in a bag with some incense and an incense holder, and they tell them these are, Prabhupada instructed we should sell this to karmi people, that with the instruction, that you light up the incense and you twirl it in front of these two persons, and then you wish for something, and your desire will become fulfilled. So I either had those Gaur-Nitai deities, and Janavama, who is also Anangamanjari, that Ayendra Prabhu worshipped as his guru Rupa Saki, his spiritual master in the spiritual world. And then he had Gopal and Krishna Balaram and Gopal, Govardhan Shilas on the left side. The right side he had Gopi Jana Vallabha with Srimati Radharani and Anangamanjari. And they had the Astasakis in front of them. Who am I forgetting? Oh, and then he had Srila Prabhupada's Murti, and he had Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami. All the shalagrams. And of course he had Nitai Sachisutta, his big neem wood deities, this top. Most beautiful. He called them honeymoon faces. And those deities belong to the Padayatra India enterprise. And they would take them town to town, like the original trip mission he wanted to embark on. And one point they brought him in front of the temple, so inside the temple compound. And the Padayatra devotees were tired and left, and they just left him there. And Ayendra Prabhu was, immediately attracted to them. And he saw them there, and after like 3 or 4 days, they were still there. And then he was thinking, oh, nobody's feeding them, nobody's giving them water to drink even. So he took them in his arms, both of them, and went up to his room. He put them down, he fed them, he feed them, He gave him water. He cooked them every day. He started worshiping them. And he prayed to them that, please, you never leave me, Never ever leave me. I'm in love with you. I want you here for the rest of my life. I want to worship you. And soon enough, the Padayatra devotees came to Ayendra Prabhu, you took our Nitai Sachi Sutta, deities. And Ayendra, like a thunderbolt, just chastised them. You left them there, starving and thirsty, not cared for, in the cold night, in this bullock cart. And they were like, yeah, he's right. So they couldn't say anything. And when Ayendra chastised you, and I'm like, whoa, it's like a thunderbolt hit you in your head. And you had to accept it. And so, they kind of like, walked away with their head down. They couldn't defend themselves. And Ayendra Prabhu, he says, I went back to Manitai Sachi Sutta, and I prayed to them even more, stronger, that please don't leave me, I don't want you to leave me. And they never left. They never came back to claim them. So pretty amazing. And that was his power. Not just, because he was angry, but because the power of his, devotion. There's so many things happened with his deities, Nitai Sachi Sutta. One time he told me that he used to sleep on the floor. He had cow dung on the floor, okay? It was like earth, but like hard. Hard floor, made of earth, of course. And Ayendra would just sleep there. And then some devotees were like, Ayendra Prabhu, you shouldn't just sleep on the floor, cold floor, and this is too much austerity. It's not necessary, And Ayendra was very austere, very, very austere. And they convinced him to sleep on a mattress. So they got him a mattress with some blankets. So Ayendra slept on the mattress. And that night, Nitai Sachi Sutta, in his dream, in his vision, they jumped off the altar and they said, we also want a mattress, we also want a nice blanket. And they jumped into the bed next to him, under the blanket. And we also want... And Ayendra woke up next to him like, wow, I have to get him, blankets and nice mattresses. And he got him mattresses, and he used to put him to sleep. Big titties, so he'd be like, we have to pick him up, they're real heavy. Put him down to sleep, and they're like, sleeping there. He had a very sweet relationship, And very funny, one time, we were just talking, I'm wondering, where Nitai Sachi Sutta, go to the bathroom or the toilet if they need to go. Of course, they don't need to go. We were just joking around, right? And Ayendra said that night he was dreaming the Nitai Sachi Sutta. They went outside the door to the toilet. All kind of. He had so many dreams with Srila Prabhupada. One time, you remember, he was in his dream. He was in front of a big pile of bananas. And he was peeling the bananas, putting the peels here, the bananas there, one after another. It was unlimited. And Srila Prabhupada was in the room. He was walking up and down, chanting japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then he says, Srila Prabhupada, when will you reveal my internal identity, my swarup, And Prabhupada just stopped, looked up to him, and with his bead bag just nose into the banana pile. Do your job. First, do your job. Yeah, they used to say, first deserve, then desire, right? And Ayurveda Prabhu used to say, how much do we have to deserve, or how long we have to work until we deserve enough so we can deserve to desire? And but he definitely got there, because he wanted it. It's all about consciousness, how much you want to do this, or how much you just drifting away into the material energy, and you'll have some kind of semblance of Krishna consciousness somewhere. You go to the temple on Sunday, maybe even chant your 16 rounds, but they're not really there. So you can, but he was there for every word of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with full attention and full, strength of willpower was in every syllable, and he was chanting. And there's one story I tell you. He used to say that, I don't know about you, but I'm going back home, back to Godhead. And those who assist me in this effort of 24-hour kirtan will come with me. And it's like, who can say that? Kind of like an outlandish, statement, right? I'm going back home, back to God. Okay, whatever. And he said, then after, at one point he said, yeah, I had this dream, this vision, when I was in front of Radha Shyamsundar, and Narada Muni was in front of them, and Srimati Radharani asked Narada Muni that who is the devotee in the Krishna Balaram Mandir who is singing so nicely to us? And then Narada Muni said, that's my disciple Aindra Das. And of course, this is a Bhagavat Sampradaya, or Shiksha Sampradaya. You understand? Narada Muni is our guru. He's our guru. He instructed Brahma. We're coming from Brahma Gauriya Sampradaya. So he's our param guru. So he says, he is my disciple, Aindra Das. And then Radharani said that, please bring him back, and all the men helping him, assisting him in his effort of chanting. It's like, wow. So there is some hope. But we all have to take up this, effort somehow. Yes, Prabhu.
Can I say something? Every time we used to go to Vrindavan, both my wife, myself, and my brother, we would always, after his kirtan, at 7 p.m. he had his kirtan, he would come to us and have a frank talk about everything. And then one day he said, can you come to my chambers? And my brother and my females were not allowed, by the way. It was my brother.
It was the Brahmacharya ashram.
Yeah, it was the Brahmacharya ashram. So my brother and myself, we went there. Would you believe, my brother, when he went inside, I was there, he said, there is so much of energy here.
Yeah.
I have to go out, in the balcony-like thing is there, to have some fresh air. There was so much of energy there.
Condensed.
My brother could not really take it at that particular time at all. That was one example. Secondly, I will tell you also, my wife, who was very impressed with this, everybody all over the world got impressed with his kirtan, and we had the pleasure of having the touch of his kirtan yesterday also. My wife told him, we are so blessed with your kirtan, with your everything, can we do something for you? She said, no, I have everything, I don't want anything. She said, but still I would like, she cried here. And he said, okay, if you want to do something for my Shilpa there, not for me at all. Buy some scent or something, but he didn't. He said, he told some devotee, do it, and then give it. We have no words to thank him, what he has done. And last time, Prabhuji, when we were in Vrindavan, it was in March, we went also, I don't know whether you can call it, was it a samadhi or, just next to that, should we call it a samadhi?
It's a pushpa samadhi. It means there's a flower from his garland
Yeah.
when he passed away. So it was a flower samadhi. He is there.
One of the finest devotees we have met, to be honest.
And
And as you had said, very honest, very frank. Also, he had it. Sorry, I want to share this.
No, I appreciate it. It's good. Very good. Back in the day, when Ayendra Prabhu was in Vrindavan, for a devotee to go to India and Vrindavan simply meant to see Ayendra's Kirtan. Everybody came to Vrindavan to see Ayendra's Kirtan. It was just a simple fact. I'm not exaggerating. No, it's just... And so, you know, when you have the chance to see somebody like Ayendra or Prabhupada, of course, Prabhupada is next level, but in that caliber, then just it will knock you out, you know, kick you out of the modes of nature and set you on the right path, you know, back home, back to Godhead. I remember one time I left Vrindavan for 2 years. I changed from brahmachari to white collar, and I was in love with this girl, and she took me to Hungary, and then after 2 years, she decided she doesn't want anything. And I was like, well, I left Ayendra, I left Vrindavan for a girl, and she dumps me. And then I called Ayendra Prabhu. I said, Ayendra Prabhu, I want to come back. And Ayendra was just laughing in the phone. Ha ha ha, Govinda, you're a failure. And to me, like, wow, this is true. And I felt so happy, you know, that I am, you know, it's so funny. I'm such a fool. But he says, when you come back here, you have to, you know, give your level best, and nothing but going back home, back to Godhead. There's nothing else on your mind. And now you have to take sannyas. I was like, whoa, okay. That was Indra. But I was with that girl in Vrindavan, and she never seen Indra. And she told Indra Prabhu that, yeah, you know, I want to be a mother, I want to have children. Why do you need children? Just accept Krishna as your baby. He's your son. He's your baby. He was just like, no compromise in any way. And to us it's funny, you know, but to him it was just normal. You know. So, and he was so compassionate, he accepted me back. Well, the only thing you can do for anyone in this world and yourself is to become a pure devotee. There's nothing better than that. That will help you, and that will help everybody else. And the process is given. Follow this sadhana bhakti. Panchangam, or the 5 top limbs of sadhana bhakti, are residing in the dham, worshipping the Archa Vigraha, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And the top out of the 5 is chanting the holy name. That's the Yuga Dharma. That's how we'll get there. You know, chant more and chant more and more and more. If there's no Harinam going on, chant japa. You can chant 32 rounds. You can chant 64 rounds if you have time. Ayendra Prabhu was chanting 116 rounds. He told me, I asked him. And he says on special days like celebration, Tirobhavas, and Purushottam Mas, and then Kartik Mas, he was chanting 192 rounds. 3 lakhs. And he used to say, if Ayendra Das can do it, you can do it. He was thinking of himself as, you know, good for nothing, never do well. You know, he was like, Sometimes he would put on this country accent. He was like a country boy, kind of from Virginia. Another lila I can tell you at pastime. He says, when I joined the temple in Potomac, I told you about his astrology. So his Saturn is a mystical planet, but also Shanidev is a planet of karma, but he's a mystic person, and Indra had all this kind of like a mystic power. He could relate and communicate with subtle beings. And he says when he was able to log in and enter this subtle realm, he would see these beings. He says he would sometimes like sword fight with them, kind of like just playing around. Pretty crazy. He was a very, very mystical person. And then he says, when I lived in the temple, after 1 week, I was the last person to go to sleep in the ashram, the brahmachari ashram. And he says he was like a dozen devotees there or more. And everybody was sleeping. So I said, I'm going to try if I can still, enter that different dimension, that subtle dimension. And he was trying and trying, and it wasn't happening. Because this is like an experiment, I'm living in a temple now. Is it possible due to the place, to the spiritual place? Or there has been any change in my consciousness? So it was kind of like an experiment. And he was not able to do it. And he told me this personally, this story. But then I saw this, I heard this noise, from somewhere far away. And I saw this kind of like a cloud, far away, but this cloud was coming closer. And I saw closer and closer, it was coming above me, so not in his level, but kind of in the air, in space. And as it was coming closer, he could see Krishna and Balaram running, just like he opened the Krishna book, like the inside cover is Krishna and Balaram, they're running with all the cowherd boys and calves and cows, just little boys playing and running and having fun, careless. And he says he saw them running over him, and it was like such an overwhelming experience. He was stunned, And as they were above him, just above him, Krishna, he looked down, he looked into his eye. He saw, he looked into my eye, kind of like, you see, I'm real. And then he just left, and he was like, wow. He had so many experiences like this. He told me when we were in Vrindavan, he said, yesterday I had this dream when I was drowning in the Jamuna and kind of accepted that I'm drowning. And then suddenly Durga Devi appeared to me, and he says, I'm not testing you anymore. You're free from lust, and I'm not going to seduce you or lure you anymore. It was like, wow. He had all kind of...
Who was saying it?
Durga Devi. Durga Devi? Her services? She has a trident, sword, and all kind of weapons, and she's smacking us around. She's the external form of Srimati Radharani, and unless we become reformed, because this is a jail sentence here, reformatory process, until we become reformed and Krishna conscious, he will punish us and throw us, from a good cell or a bad cell, heaven or hell, but we'll be in the material world. There's definitely more I can't remember right now off the bat. Yes, Prabhu. No, he left New York in 1986. I joined in New York in 1991. So when I went to Vrindavan, he was already there for 10 years. Yeah. But I would explain, he was doing so many hours of kirtan. In New York City, he had this flatbed truck. Not a flatbed, he had a truck, like, those moving trucks, or like a cooling trucks, you've probably seen it here. You open the back door, on the side, not in the back, but on the side. So he had the truck, he opened the side door, and he had a temple set up inside. He had big speakers, and microphone, and a nice decoration, big paintings. And he would go out and stop at the sidewalk and open the doors and just kirtan all day, 8 hours, 10 hours. He would stop for 5 hours sometimes. 5 minutes sometimes. But he was just going on and on. In the weekends, he would go to this lower east side and West Village. All the youth and all these artists, a lot of happening, like downtown place. And he would stay until 4 o'clock in the morning doing kirtan. Then he would go to the temple, attend Mangal Artik, and crash out. So very intense sadhana. And he says that when I came to Vrindavan, after doing all this kirtan, when I came to Vrindavan, my spiritual life has started. So like, wait a minute, what was he doing till then? Quite a bit, yeah, but this is a higher level. His consciousness was elevated, because he did the fire, the yagya, and in that fire of that yagya, it was all his anarthas and sinful reactions were burnt. And he, of course, he was already coming from a very high, elevated place, But, we also have to do that. And depending on if you're doing it very meager fashion or a very fired up fashion and constant fashion, we can also get there. Srila Prabhupada says you can go back to God in one lifetime. But who can be so fired up? It's possible, theoretically it's possible. Practically, who can do it? If in this space, or pace, at this pace that we are performing, it's questionable.
Maybe that was a manifest that we just have to hear. The noise. You said it's possible and then it fell.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can I share one more thing?
Yeah.
I know when his Vrindavan Mellows was recorded, it became a popular hit all over the world.
Mm.
And naturally, my wife, she bought all of them. And these days also, whenever we are traveling by car, if I put some other music, she orders me, put Vrindavan Mellows. Yes.
Vrindavan Mellows, first one, I would listen over and over and over and over again. And I went to see Ayendra Prabhu in Vrindavan, and he was listening to it over and over and over again, non-stop, in his room. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It was just going on non-stop, all this music. You leaving?
Yeah, I'll come on, Harry.
Okay.
Just have to go home and I'll come in there. Is that okay?
I guess so, yeah. Anything else? You have anything? All right, Hare Krishna, thank you. Ahindra Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai.